Welcome to the Lunchtime broadcast, where we highlight the news making waves ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports and economic news. Here are the headlines. Oshakati Town Mayor urges youth to register to vote in November elections. African aviation meteorology experts gather for the International Civil Aviation Organization Aviation Meteorology Conference in Windhoek, and an update on the cannabis issue. Shangula dismisses legalization talks. I am Diana Master and this is NMH at 1 Midday News Update coming right up. The Health Ministry has ruled out the legalization of the commercial cultivation of cannabis for medical purposes in Namibia on the grounds that effective treatments already exist. Minister Dr. Shangula said the country sees no need to legalize cannabis for pain management treatments, as the current stock of drugs administered intramuscularly or intravenously is effective. We have enough medication that works, he said. This came after Cabinet in 2022 tasked the ministry with investigating whether there is demand for cannabis for medicinal purposes and what health risks are associated with its consumption. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed into power the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill last Tuesday, legalizing the private consumption of cannabis. While this law has come into effect, the trade of cannabis remains prohibited. Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia right after the break. Stay with NMH at 1.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Getting into our visual news clips, Oshakati Town Mayor Leonard Hango said the youth are the least to have shown up at the voters' cards registration points yesterday. Hango, who registered at the Leo Shapala Hall in Oshakati, said he hopes this is because it is day one and urged the young people to show up so they can be eligible voters come November.
Leonard Hango, the Mayor of Oshakati Local Authority. I'm here now appealing to all residents of Oshakati to come and register yourself, to acquire yourself a voter's registration card, so that you'll be able to be eligible to vote come 27 November 2024. Come all, especially the youth. I'm seeing a number of our elderly people are coming, but the youth are in small numbers. Please come and register and be eligible voters in Oshakati Local Authority. Thank you.
In a concerted effort to exchange knowledge and explore innovative solutions to pertinent issues in aviation meteorology experts, stakeholders and professionals from Eastern and Southern African countries today gathered for the International Civil Aviation Organization Aviation Meteorology Conference in Windhoek. Held at the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel, the seminar will be hosted until Thursday, the 6th of June by the Namibia Civil Aviation Authority under the theme Aeronautical Meteorology in the Eastern and Southern African region to build capacity and strengthen collaborations. Giving the keynote address on behalf of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works and Transport, John Mutorwa, Executive Director Esther Kapanda highlights the discussion's key points.
Notably, Amendment 81 to the ICAO Annex 3. This amendment has brought about significant changes, shaping the future of meteorological services for international air navigation. Our discussions will explore the implications of this amendment with a keen focus on operational meteorology and availability, space weather requirements, and the integration of artificial intelligence in meteorology. In the midst of our discussions on aviation meteorology, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the broader environmental challenges facing our SADC region and Africa, our continent. Namibia, like many countries in the region, is grappling with the harsh realities of drought and climate change. The challenges posed by dynamic weather patterns and climate change underscore the importance of investing in cutting-edge technology, research, and training in aviation meteorology. By harnessing the power of data, technology, and collaboration, we can better equip ourselves to address these challenges and ensure the reliability of weather information crucial to aviation operations.
Stay with us after the break. The newspaper review segment takes us into the top stories in Namibia's daily newspapers.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. On the Namibian Sun front page, with voter registration kicking off countrywide yesterday until the 1st of August, Independent Patriots for Change leader Dr. Panduleni Itula predicted that his party will win by an absolute majority in November, while the ruling party SWAPO's share of the vote will decline to about 29%. He made the remarks after registering as a voter in Katutura yesterday. Asked about the possibility of SWAPO facing a similar fate to South Africa's African National Congress, which saw President Cyril Ramaphosa hanging onto his job by his fingernails following last week's election, Itula was bullish about the party's prospects while painting a gloomy picture for the former liberation movement. On page 3, the Justice Ministry says its budget for $35 million Namibian for this financial year will allow it to expand the threshold for legal aid. Before, only individuals who earned $3,500 Namibian or less were able to apply for legal aid. Now that number has been increased to $7,000 Namibian. Onto the front page of the Republican, the former CEO of the road contractors company Kelling Lifwa was yesterday found guilty of fraud and corruption in connection with 4 separate incidents. The majority is related to 2 private companies that were involved in the B1 city development in the capital. One of his co-accused, Hafeni Nginawami, was found guilty with him on one of the 11 charges originally brought against the 3 accused. The other accused, Anandoroma, was acquitted of all the charges. Of the 11 charges brought against the 3 defendants in 2011, only 8 remained when the verdict was delivered by Judge Christy Liebenberg. On page 3, the international company Tower Resources' search for oil in the Atlantic Ocean on the Namibian coast in the Walviskom still continues. The company is listed on the Australian Stock Exchange and based in London. With Monday's announcement of its financial results to the end of 2023, the company says technical studies confirm the presence of oil in its PEL 96 exploration license area. The results show clear evidence of a working petroleum system present within the Dolphin Graben in PEL 96 in the form of oil recovered from samples from the 1911-15-1 borehole and direct hydrocarbon indicators observed on seismic, the company says. According to Allgemeine Zeitung's front page, partially treated wastewater is currently being discharged from the Uyams wastewater treatment plant into the Klein Windhoek Rivier because the treatment plant is overloaded and too much wastewater is being diverted into it. The Windhoek City Council is apparently already investigating this case. On the paper's page 3, former NAMPOL investigator Morgan Blakey pleaded guilty to 4 charges for which he was on trial. Now a judge has found him guilty of a further offence to which he pleaded not guilty. The defendant represented himself in court. Stick around after the break. We continue with our newspaper review segment.
Are you tired of just hanging around at home while waiting for something to do? Check out eticket.diary.my.na for what's hot on the social scene across the country. Or if you're arranging an event you'd like us to feature, contact Jareen at we.com.na. We can sell your tickets too.
Getting into the second half of our newspaper review segment, political parties have intensified their efforts to garner support ahead of the November presidential and National Assembly elections by targeting the virgin vote, reports the Namibian newspaper. This comes after the Electoral Commission of Namibia launched a voter registration exercise yesterday to run until the 1st of August. On the paper's page 3, the Namibian Lives Matter movement fears that the upcoming Namibia-Botswana Defence Forces Joint Civil Military Cooperation campaign may trigger trauma for those who have suffered at the hands of the Botswana Defence Force in the past. Their concerns come after Major General Petrus Natinge from the Namibia Defence Force and Major General Simon. Moving over to the front page of the New Era, as this year's presidential and National Assembly elections beckon, bankable solutions to Namibia's youth unemployment crisis could decide who wins. Ultimately, this might result in a mutual win for political parties and the youth. By leveraging their collective voting power, the youth have the potential to steer political discourse towards policies that prioritize job creation, skills development, and sustainable growth. May the youth decide at the polls whether the 2024 ballot is for jobs, said a research associate from the Institute for Public Policy Research, Rosvita Ndumbu. A total of 700,648 young people, representing 52% of the voters on the final list, registered themselves as voters in 2019. On to page 3, Environment and Tourism Minister Pohamba Shifeta has come out strongly against SITE's decision to ban ivory from being sold on international markets. In an interview with the New Era on the sidelines of the just-ended Kazaa Summit in Livingstone, he said if the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora refuses member states to sell off ivory stockpiles, they will withdraw their membership. If CITES refuses, we have some alternative and plans. We can go for arbitration. This arbitration is provided for by the World Trade Organization, which international law allows, especially when we are unnecessarily or unreasonably refused or restrained from exercising our rights as member states. Or we have to look at other alternatives to completely withdraw from CITES, he threatened. Moving over to MarketWatch, Trustco Group Holdings' net asset value increased by 9.5% from 1.15 billion Namibian dollars to 1.26 billion Namibian dollars during the last 6 months. The NAV per share similarly grew to 128.2 cents from 117.1 cents. The group's profit for the 6 months ended 29 February 2024 was 110 million Namibian dollars compared to a loss of 250 Namibian dollars in the previous corresponding period. Basic and headline earnings per share were 11.17 cents, with Trustco describing the performance as a significant improvement from the previous interim period. Now, keeping with economic news, a labor expert Herbert York said that the 18 Namibian dollar minimum wage introduced by government effective January 2025 is a compromise. We'll get into more details right after this break.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
In economic news, as previously highlighted, labor expert Herbert York said the 18 Namibian dollar minimum wage introduced by government effective January 2025 is a compromise, and while it would lift the extremely lowly paid workers such as farm and domestic workers, it would hardly make their lives easier. In its announcement over the weekend, the Ministry of Labour emphasized that the just introduced minimum wage is to serve as a floor wage and companies should not reduce the salaries of their staff based on this minimum. The $18 per hour is a compromise compromise. If you look at the Namibian constitution, which prescribes for a living wage, then this is far below that provision. However, if we look at the extremely low wages of the workers in the retail and farm and domestic workers, that is so low it is often below 10 Namibian dollars per hour, then it can lift them to earn at least more than 1,000 Namibian dollars. But it can only be a good thing when it is implemented, and we can achieve that because the wages are still too low. It would take really strong unions that can ensure it is implemented and who can negotiate for more, he said. Yao added that that too remains to be seen whether this will be implemented, given that the many provisions of the Labour Act is not implemented as it should be. We'll now take a look at the economic indicators just before we return with African news. The Namibian dollar trades at 23.87 to the British pound, 20.37 to the euro, 18.72 to the US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars and 59 cents buys you 1 Chinese yuan. First Rand Namibia Limited stocks took a dip of 0.50%, while Etsego Holdings and Namibia Breweries Limited stocks were up by 2.50 and 0.03% respectively. Meanwhile, the rest maintained. All commodities are down. Gold by 0.81%, now trading at $2,331 and 55 cents per ounce. Local index closed on an upturn of 0.12%, now and overall index closed on a downturn of 0.05%.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
We now expand beyond Namibia's borders to give you the latest news from the African continent here on Animation 1. Nigeria's main labor unions on Monday shut down the national grid and disrupted flights across the country as they began an indefinite strike over the government's failure to agree to a new minimum wage. The strike began after talks broke down between the government and the country's two biggest union federations, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, over increasing the minimum wage. It is the fourth since President Bola Tinubu took office last year. The transmission company of Nigeria said union members drove operators away at the country's power control rooms and shut down at least 6 substations, eventually shutting the national grid at 2:19 a.m. Nigerian time. Nigerian airline Ibom Air said it was suspending flights until further notice due to the strike, while another, United Nigeria, said airports across the country had been shut down and striking workers had permitted none of the flights to operate. Electricity and Aviation Union said in a statement on Monday they had directed members to withdraw their services in compliance with the indefinite strike. In our next story, 7 new bodies have been found as exhumations continued in the Kenyan forest of Shangula on Monday. As exhumations continued on Monday in a Kenyan forest where hundreds of victims of a doomsday cult were found buried last year, 7 more bodies were discovered. The total number of people unearthed from the mass graves now stands at 436. The government paused the exhumations last year to allow for DNA matching of the bodies. So far, only 34 of the victims have been identified. The first bodies were discovered in April 2023 in the Shangula forest near the Kenyan coast, leading to the arrest of Pastor Paul Mackenzie, who was alleged to have led his followers to starve themselves to death in order to meet Jesus. Mackenzie has pleaded not guilty to 191 counts of murder, manslaughter and terrorism. He has also been charged with child torture and cruelty. The case shocked Kenya, a largely Christian nation, and brought attention to the lack of regulation of churches and cults. After the break, we extend to the rest of the globe, bringing you international news.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into international news, security was tight and access restricted to Beijing's Tiananmen Square on Tuesday, the 35th anniversary of the June 4 crackdown, while Hong Kong police detained several activists as cities in Taiwan and elsewhere prepared to mark the date with vigils. Chinese tanks rolled into the square before dawn on June 4, 1989, to end weeks of pro-democracy demonstrations by students and workers. Television news images of a lone Chinese man in a white shirt standing in front of a column of tanks spread around the world and became the iconic image of the demonstrations. Decades after the military crackdown, rights activists say the demonstrators' original goals, including a free press and freedom of speech, remain distant, and June 4th is still a taboo topic in China. The ruling Communist Party has never released a death toll, though rights groups and witnesses say the figure could run into the thousands. In Beijing, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning told reporters that Beijing firmly opposes anyone smearing China and using this as a pretext to interfere in China's internal affairs. Taiwan is the only part of the Chinese-speaking world where June 4th can be remembered openly, with a commemoration event planned in Taipei, the capital. Others are planned in countries such as Britain, Canada, and the United States. In China-ruled Hong Kong, police officers tightened security around downtown Victoria Park, where large June 4 candlelit vigils had been held annually before tougher new national security laws took effect in recent years. Police took away several individuals near the park, among them an elderly man holding up a poster commemorating June 4th, a Reuters witness said. Now, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's alliance was winning a majority of seats about halfway through the count in the general election on Tuesday, but the numbers were well short of the landslide predicted in exit polls, TV channels said. Modi's own Bharatiya Janata Party was falling short of a majority of its own in the 543-member parliament, the trends showed. Having to depend on allies to form the government could introduce some uncertainty in policy making, as Modi has ruled with an authoritative hold in the last decade. The Hindu nationalist BJP won a majority of its own when it swept to power in 2014, ending India's era of unstable condition governments, and repeated the feat in 2019. The prospect of Modi having to rely on allies spooked markets, with stocks falling steeply. A narrower than expected victory for Modi's alliance may raise doubts about the new government's ability to push through politically difficult reforms seen as crucial to sustain India's economic growth, which is already the world's fastest, said Vasu Menon, managing director of investment strategy at OCBC in Singapore. Despite this, the fact remains that the BJP-led alliance is still set to win a third term, which means continuity in the government's infrastructure and manufacturing-led drive to boost economic growth. Markets had soared on Monday after exit polls on June 1st projected Modi and BJP would register a big victory, and the ruling National Democratic Alliance was seen getting a two-thirds majority and more. At 9 a.m. GMT, TV channels showed the NDA was ahead in nearly 300 of the 543 elective seats in Parliament, where 272 is a simple majority, with about half the votes counted. Full results are likely to be available in several hours. Stick with us. After the break, we get into our local and international sports news.
Are you tired of just hanging around at home while waiting for something to do? Check out eticket.diary.my.na for what's hot on the social scene across the country. Or if you're arranging an event you'd like us to feature, contact Jareen at we.com.na. We can sell your tickets too.
Starting off our local sports news, the Namibia Rugby Union confirmed that Grootfontein wing Mskal Maree has been banned from playing rugby for life following an on-field incident against referee Oscar Lambert, which was captured during the live broadcast of the NRU Premier League match 2 weekends ago against Rio Falcon. The union reaffirmed its commitment to upholding the integrity and safety of the sport and stated that it would not tolerate any actions that jeopardize these values in a media statement released yesterday. Maree will also serve a 156-week ban from all forms of rugby, including coaching, refereeing and administration, effective from the 30th of May 2024. This ban will end on the 31st of May 2027 upon clearance by the NRU. 11 Arrows Football Club recently paid tribute to its top performers during the 2023-2024 season. The Walvis Bay-based club competed in the NFA's Southern Stream First Division, finished in the 3rd spot on the log with 38 points. The award recipients included winger Carlos Antonio, centre-back Jesse Shimpanda, striker Kuita Shifweye, and who was the top goal scorer with 10 goals, anchorman Paulas Shinyenga and Andrew Pendikeni as best goalkeeper. Ongos Valley has announced the development of a landmark sports village and stadium during a launch attended by Sports Minister Agnes Chungarero, her Deputy Emma Kantem-Moses, Laura McLeod Kashirua, the Governor of the Commerce Region, and George Samata, Secretary to Cabinet. Regan Craig, Chairperson of the Ongos Valley, stated that the rationale for investing in sports infrastructure stems from a deep understanding of the multifaceted benefits that sports can bring to individuals, communities, and the nation as a whole. Stick around. Right after this, we get into our international sports news.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
In international sports news, Kylian Mbappe signed a 5-year deal to move to Real Madrid from Paris Saint-Germain on Monday and called the move a dream come true. The announcement is the culmination of Real's long courtship of one of the most prolific forwards in world football. Real first courted Mbappe in 2012 when they invited the 13-year-old to spend a week with them. During the visit, he was photographed with his idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. The time for hard luck stories and excuses is over for England as they head into the Euro 2024 with expectations of a first major men's trophy since 1996 justifiably sky high. Gareth Southgate's squad will be unsurpassed in terms of quality in Germany, and any scenario other than Harry Kane holding aloft the trophy on July 14th will be regarded by the majority of fans as an underachievement. And closing off international sports stories, Afghanistan produced a dominant bowling and batting performance to thrash debutants Uganda by 125 runs at the T20 World Cup in Guyana on Monday. Afghanistan openers Ramunala Gubaz and Ibrahim Zadran laid the foundations for the win with an opening stand of 154 in Afghanistan's 183.5. Left-arm seamer Fazal Haq Faroqi dazzled with 5 wickets for just 9 runs as Uganda was skittled for 58 in 16 overs. If you're just joining us, this is NMH at 1 and we'll get into the highlights from today's broadcast on the other side of this.
Welcome to Namibia.
Why do we keep putting such names in the script? I don't understand. Farouki and Dukhakhushra.
In your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
You're still with NMH at 1. If you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. Nigeria's main labor unions on Monday shut down the national grid and disrupted flights across the country as they began an indefinite strike over the government's failure to agree to a new minimum wage. In international news, security was tight and access restricted to Beijing's Tiananmen Square on Tuesday, the 35th anniversary of the June 4 crackdown, while Hong Kong police detained several activists as cities in Taiwan and elsewhere prepared to mark the date with vigils. And in local sports news, the Namibia Rugby Union confirmed that Grootfontein wing Miskal Murray has been banned from playing rugby for life following